Okay, I think I'll start and maybe the rest of the people can catch up in the recording. So I just want to go over what I want to cover today. This is my favorite tool. As much as I do so much of watercolor, I love pencil sketching. And I believe that if you practice pencil sketching, then all of your other skills are improved by leaps and bounds. There's something in pencil sketching that helps you see things better, helps to keep your, uh, or at least train your hand to move very efficiently. Also, everything that you require in the rest of the mediums, like the amount of pressure that you put or the kind of control you need over your tools, all of them can actually come from a pencil. But often it's just dismissed as a preliminary tool just to make the basic drawing, and then everybody wants to move on to acrylics, and oil paint is such a fascination. Everyone thinks that if you want to be a true artist, you have to be painting in oil, otherwise you're not even an artist. So I just want to remove that. I think it could be an Indian phenomenon. I don't know. Abroad, it's a very different scene. All kinds of artists or artists appreciate it, but that's partly because they have such a huge exposure and such a vast, continuous history of visual art through artworks in museums, on buildings, even street sculptures, everything. They have art all around them. So there is a different kind of respect. So for today, I'll just go over some of the things that we will explore. As always, this is the best that I can do in one session. I can go on with pencil sketching for a year, I think, but we won't do that much. So yeah, I'll speak a little bit about where the pencil comes from. So know your tools is the part that I'm going to do. Also, how you can work with the pencil, what are the different ways in which we can work with the pencil. And then, of course, we have the different exercises with which I will try and reinforce different effects you can achieve with a pencil. All right, so first and foremost, use the most regular pencil you have. We don't need fancy pencils. I myself have been a victim of that, going and buying a set because I think I want to do a nice pencil sketch. You can see I haven't even had to sharpen it one more time because I was just so intimidated by this whole thing that my regular pencil is just one of my Apsara Dark or a Natraj. I think I can do my best work in that. I still have a problem with the other. I don't know what this. Oh, this is still a 3B. Hmm. I have something like this. Is probably my daughter's because she goes and picks up these fancy tools and then she gets bored and then I get to hand me downs now. It's not the other way around. So look for a pencil which is reasonably dark, reasonably soft, and that is usually a 2B pencil. So as far as pencils are concerned, now pencils are not really old. If you do a little search, I'll try and look for the article, or there's a wonderful, I think, YouTube video on the history of pencils. They have been around for just about maybe 250, maybe 300 years now. And it all started off with the what we call the lead. It's not actually lead, the metal. It is graphite. We tend to call it lead, or we call it a lead pencil, and this is just a misnomer that comes from the time when the writing tool used by the Romans used to be called lead. Again, it was not lead even then. It was just a term that they used, and that just continued. But this is made from a soft graphite, and some of this graphite, the origin of the pencil comes from the fact that a soft form of graphite was found in some rural part of England, and it was really soft and gooey. So they could literally pick it up, mold it into some, just it's like a soft rock, and then make marks with that. And initially they made marks on the backs of sheep, so that each sheep farmer could tell their herd different. So instead of branding, because I mean sheep, there's no point in branding sheep. They would grow the wool right back on top of their skins or hides. So they would make some kind of mark with this soft graphite. But it was so potent and so dark that it would soil everything, a person's hands, their clothes. So some genius came up with the idea of sandwiching the piece of graphite in two pieces of wood and tying it up with a rope. So it became like one of those massive tools which you could hold and write with, but it did not soil your hands. And what we have today is pretty much the exact same thing condensed to a size which we can use by hand. Now, there's a very nice, there are lovely videos on making of pencil also, which I urge you to see. So the graphite is mixed with a certain amount of clay, and the amount of clay that that they put into the graphite determines its darkness. So as far as pencil darkness is concerned, you have a scale. And this scale ranges from the H to the B, and somewhere in between you have HB. So you will have H1, H2, H3, so on and so forth on the H side, and B1, or actually B2, not even H1, B2, B3, and B4 along the B side. Now the term H and B is a big question. Why do we have this H and why do we have this B? Common understanding is that H is hard pencils, simple enough, but then B is not any, there's no word that is opposite to hard that we can use for B, but they are called soft pencils. So this is for English. But originally the word comes from O, H-A-U-T, which in French means high. And the opposite of that is bas, B-A-S, again in French meaning low. And O and bas is actually indicative of the quality of clay. So high quality clay made very hard pencils, and low quality, I might as well write high and low here, because bar does not mean soft. Low quality clay gave you soft pencils. And this is very likely because the first pencils were created by Faber. I think that's a French company, Faber-Castell. Same one. And they have a date on this since 1761. So this was the time, yeah. So it's amazing that they, from 1761, Faber was the guy who patented the idea of using two pieces of wood which are turned to make a cylinder cut in half. Then you insert this piece of treated graphite that's treated with clay, and you stick them together and you use them. Now, initially, these pencils were circular. I'm sure you must have come across circular or cylindrical, completely smooth cylindrical pencils like these. The problem with this was that they kept rolling off the desk and they would break, and this was completely useless. So somebody from the Faber family came up with the idea of the hexagon, where at some point it stops. Just in case you haven't noticed, it did stop over here. So the horizontal sides help the pencil not to fall out. Now I'm going on and on about this history because I find it fascinating, and it's good to know all these trivial things about the tools that you use. But also I'm waiting for everyone to join in so that I don't have to repeat the exercises again. The history they can watch later.
There's a really nice documentary actually on YouTube, Faber-Castell one. So since I watched it, I only buy Faber-Castell pencils.
Yeah,
because it's really there. It's like a home-based company, and it's just so nice that even till today they are very conscious of quality.
Yeah, it's a very lovely story. You have to see it. It's beautiful. If you've seen it recently, then please share it, and I will look for my history of pencils, and I'll share that with you also. All right, so this is the tool that you have, a gadget that was invented in maybe 250 years ago. So it's got a lot of history to it, and it's also done a lot of work. So when you think about it, artists like Leonardo da Vinci did not have access to a pencil. Like the way I often talk about history is Shivaji did not have vada pav because we didn't have potatoes and we weren't making pav also. So as much as we say vada pav is so Marathi, Shivaji didn't have it. So even Leonardo da Vinci did not have a pencil. So we are lucky. Okay, so moving on.
So what did he use, Leonardo?
They mostly use
my question. So wondering because the sketches are so intricate and
yeah,
it's fine.
they were the dip pens that we have used, and they also used pieces of charcoal. So the pencil wasn't available, but you do, even now you get pieces of charcoal, which is slow burnt wood, which just twigs you can burn very slowly and you can use them for art. But it didn't last much. So if they had really large pieces to be made, they did a combination of charcoal as well as ink. Because funnily enough, when they had large murals to be made, I went and saw a few which were almost 12 feet high and 6 feet wide on paper. And now those are also 400, 500 years old. But those are called cartoons. The initial sketches that were made for frescoes were called cartoons, and those cartoons were made using ink and charcoal. Okay, now I'm going to start with the basics. So some of this must be known to you, but I would just like to go over it one more time. When you're drawing with pencil now, we've all learned to write first with pencil. Most children are also given pencils as the first tool when they are given paper to keep themselves occupied. The younger the children are and they're forced to write small letters or something, the weirder their grip becomes because their hands are not very strong. So nowadays you'll see kids who are writing like this, who are writing like this, whatever they could manage so that they could get the writing done. Now all these holds, once you get comfortable with them, you can do anything. I think most of you will have a hold which is just holding with your pincers and resting your pen. So I think we will be the last generation who has a normal hold for pencil. Aage ka keh nahi sakte. But just in case you have a different hold, why I prefer this is because there's a lot of mobility. None of the other holds give you that kind of mobility. So your hand can be very strained. Far too many muscles are used. With this, you have the lightest hold. You're just guiding the pencil. So when you're sketching, aim to guide the pencil along an area. When we are writing, we usually write very, very small shapes. Even writing can be considered as drawing. When you make a letter, you're actually just drawing shapes which have a meaning. If I were to draw a shape that was like that, just because it does not have a meaning, it's not a alphabet which we recognize, has no context to it, but it's still the same number of lines, just change. So when we are drawing our letters, we use a very tiny space, no more than maybe 7 millimeters or 8 millimeters at a time. If you have noticed the regular single line books that we have, the distance between the lines is just about 8 mm, not more than that. So if you are going to now draw over a page which does not have lines, there's no guides, and you have to create your own artwork, there are a few changes that you should expect to make even in how you use the tool, whichever tool it be. So first and foremost, the grip of your pencil. Like I said, keep the grip light. Even when you are making details, even when you are making long span lines, keep the grip as light as you can. How you hold the pencil depends on the amount of detail that you need to do. So the hold, now grip is the strength with you hold the pencil, and the hold is how you're holding it. Like, are you holding it, let's say, hold or distance? When you have small areas, you hold it really close. And when you are drawing in large areas, you try and hold it as far as you can. In fact, if you're going to draw in sizes at say A3 size, the initial sketching can be done by holding even the pencil right at the end so that you can move over a large area. So the hold or the distance is dependent on the detail that you have to make and the area that you have to cover.
Many artists you hold the pencil under palm also, right? Like this.
Correct, yeah. That is, yeah, that's also a way of holding it. And many artists also shade like this. Again, this has something to do with comfort, how comfortable you are, and also again the area. Sometimes when you have large areas to cover, holding it from above helps you to go over large sections much easier than doing it like this. It's a big encumbrance. Secondly, holding it from top also flattens the pencil so that the entire width of the lead can cover the distance, whereas with this it just won't cover it. Overhand, underhand. Now these are not the technical terms as I know it. I just call them whatever I can understand. Because underhand can mean completely different thing altogether. Okay, so these are the different considerations when you are drawing with the pencil. Most of these things you will not have to think about consciously. Only because I'm such a nerd, I try to make notes about everything. I thought we would just go over these things so that if there are some issues, you might just say, okay, I've tried this technique, but it doesn't work for me. Your questions might be more forthcoming if I just go over all the possibilities with this. Okay. Now, after this, the most important aspects that I'm going to cover. One, the most important aspect is line quality. I'm sure you must have come across pencil sketches by different people that you know personally when you see a real person draw. And you will notice that in some people, the line quality is very impressive. Now, I don't know how to define this. To generalize things would be wrong, but let me just try and give you an example. Say you have to draw a circle. You have one person who is drawing the circle like that. Then you have one person who is drawing the circle like that. And then you have one person who will draw the circle like that. Now in each of these, the difference in, and there will be other multiple ways also, you might find people drawing lines. So here you've got a little bit of a person who is not very confident of their lines. So they're not sure whether they'll be able to draw the line in one go. This is usually an adult who wants to draw but has severe issues about their own abilities and for no reason. This line is usually how a child will draw because they have absolutely no expectation from anybody and they don't care what anybody thinks. So they'll just take their pencil and just make a circle, and to them they don't even think beyond that. A circle is done, it's made. And this is something that probably somebody who studied art for a little while will do. Now the difference in the lines is the first one, you can get the same effect by going over the same circle again and again. And yet you can see the difference in the two line qualities. Here you have hesitance. The hesitation will make everything look really weird. Now, if I were to draw a square also, this is how a square can be drawn, and it can look really, really shabby. The hesitant line can look really shabby. I still prefer when a child, I'm going to try and draw this with my left hand. When a child goes and draws a confident like that, a line, which is not a square, things are not joining, it still looks better. So what I'm trying to get at is that at the end of the day, it seems as if the shape or perfection of shape does not seem to matter as much as how confident your line is. If I were to draw a cup in this kind of line versus, I'm going to try again with my left hand. To me, this line has much more dynamism, much more fun than the hesitant line. You can have a completely different opinion. I'm not enforcing my opinion, but I'd like to show you the contrast between two lines. And this, the only reason why a line becomes like that is just a matter of over expectation, nothing else. So if you fall under the category of hesitant lines, the first thing you can do is throw away the eraser, because it will be so, you will be so tempted to doubt yourself, and then you have eraser.
My daughter's next to me. I told her today, you're going to say that. Just wait here. Throw it. Laughing.
Oh gosh, I'm becoming very predictable. But yes, in pencil sketching, of course, you have to throw away the eraser. So the quality of line that we want is first and foremost confident. Secondly, it's nicer if your lines have an undefined start or finish. So I'm calling this a wispy line. Meaning it's not a line that starts like this. It does not have a start and a finish. It definitely does not have multiple starts and finishes, unless of course you're trying to draw fur or something, then this is what we will draw. But it does have, it's like if you can imagine your pencil tip is at the end of a pendulum and you just touch the pendulum to the paper at a particular point and the pencil is just going to make a mark. That is the kind of line that's ideal. So you don't see where it begins and it just ends also just as wispily, because this line can do magic if you can develop the lightness of hand to create this line. So I'm going to be giving you some exercises to do to practice the wispy line. This is the hesitant line. And this is the confident child line. The next thing about pencil is pressure management. As if there isn't enough pressure management in life, even with pencil sketching, you have to manage the pressure. This is simple enough. It's just the amount of pressure you put on the pencil so that you create darker or lighter shades. And the third aspect is direction, on which I'm going to elaborate as we do these exercises. So you have line quality, pressure management, direction, and you've already gone over the different grips with which you are able to create your pencil sketches. Yeah. Okay, I think this covers all, so we can move to the exercises. Now, I'm just going to use the back of the.
There's a question in the chat box. I don't know if Devsana got the answer.
Oh, there's a question in the chat box. Sorry, I didn't notice. What if you don't have 2B? Oh my God, 2A? Then 6B is better. 6B or
Okay.
normal pencil is better, Devsena.
Yeah, last year I had a friend of mine who wanted art materials and it was again a lockdown. So I sent all my stuff thinking I will buy and I just didn't end up doing it. So.
Okay. So you just use a normal pencil. You don't, 6B is again very, very dark. So it will, and it's very soft also. So it will just up your paper.
Okay, thanks.
Okay. Now, first,
I have a question.
Yes.
See, as much as you say that it's a fancy pencil or something, because I have seen many of my friends who sketch with, different numbers like 3B, 4B, and they get a different effect, right?
Yes.
So should we be working with those pencils or not? Or
No,
can we achieve the same thing even with a simple kind of a pencil?
The only thing you won't achieve is high contrast. Those pencils don't have anything that the regular pencil does not have, other than the range of darkness that you can arrive at. So say you want to draw really, really black hair or black eyes or really dark shadows, then of course an 8B or a 10B has that much dark graphite, which can give you the contrast. But it does not help you draw any better. The drawing has to still be done by your hand. So in order to develop those skills, you can still use a regular pencil. And then when you are a little more confident and you start taking on subjects and and are then exploring the aesthetic aspects of the subject, the pencil just happens to become the tool. then you can take whatever pencils you want and do all sorts of musty with it, because then by then you are so comfortable with all these aspects that I'm going through, that you'll know when to pick those up.
Makes
But
sense.
I feel if it's too soon, it's literally I don't know if you land up having as much fun, because if the drawing quality is not up to mark, then you just get a dark, mediocre drawing. The drawing is still going to be mediocre. So it can be either you are frustrated in cheap or in an expensive medium. That's all I think is the difference between using a regular pencil and the expensive pencils. But I will never say no to buying fancy equipment. Please go ahead and buy. We'll build up to that so that you can enjoy those as well.
That's what I've been doing all these years. Don't even get there, Aditi. We only have tools and no skill.
I well, that's what I'm trying to change now. Okay, now just for today's class, and hopefully just so that I can insert this as a practice for all of you. If you have a small piece of paper handy, it does not have to be a plain white paper. It does not have to be a white paper. It just needs to be an inert surface. Just keep it handy as a guard sheet underneath your hand, so that because we're doing so much pencil sketching, our hand does not land up smudging the paper. I would recommend to keep something like that in your art kit. It can be an old bill or a flyer or anything. And among calligraphers, we also use playing cards, because they're in a small size, and once you plant your hand on it, they're smooth enough that they move with your hand. So while you're sketching, that playing card just keeps moving, and you don't have to keep adjusting, with which the paper you might have to do, because there is some friction between the two surfaces. So it does not have to be this size. It can just be enough to be able to plant your palm onto it. All right. Now, simple tasks. Firstly, knowing that your entire arm is an art tool, at the end of which you have a graphite filled pencil. So when you are drawing something, know that you can use your fingers, your wrist, your elbow, and your full arm to create the right movement. So give yourself a lot of space when you are doing art. It does not have to be really tiny. So let's see, for example, when you are making a small circle, only your fingers are moving. Now make sure that your fingers are moving though. Anything underneath an inch, your fingers should be able to do the drawing. If you see that in order to even make this circle, your whole hand is moving, there is a chance that you are overdoing it. You are revving your engine too much when you have to just go at like 10 kilometers per hour. Second gear will burn out. So finger mobility, I have found, is a big issue with a lot of people. So this is your finger movement. Then when you make it slightly bigger, you'll notice that you need to move your wrist around as well. Over here, you could plant your wrist and just move your fingers and get a lot of stuff done. Whereas slightly bigger than an inch and you're moving your wrist, you could also be moving your forearm. And then any bigger than that, you'll notice that your shoulder is also moving, your arm is also moving, and your wrist at that point might be stationary. So just observe how between your fingers, wrist, forearm, and full arm, what all you can move. Now, if you move all three joints, you will get some kind of very weird Zumba dance on your paper. We don't want that. Something needs to be stationary. I just want to indicate all this because I have found that many people are trying to draw very small areas, also moving the whole hand. And that is the cause for those hesitant lines also. You can hold your pencil far away and just move your fingers and do a lot of work without having to move your wrist or your forearm or your forearm. So these are your hand positions, hand movement. If you have not been able to do this before, I would suggest fill a whole page with just these tiny circles where, or any kind of shape in which you only move your fingers. You can try the digit 8, you can try just drawing like V shapes or draw all the alphabets at about an inch height, but just moving your fingers back and forth and round and round. That's a good exercise to get your fingers mobile. Now the second part that we're going to do is the pressure. And I'm going to show you how to create depth or darkness by using pressure in layers and direction. Now, if we make two circles here and we fill one very lightly by just about touching the pencil, barely touching the pencil. So hold the pencil very lightly at this point and just move your fingers back and forth. It doesn't matter if some of the shading goes outside the circle, it's okay. So this is the lightest layer. And then hold the pencil very close or about just at this point so that you can apply maximum pressure without breaking the lead of the pencil, of course, and fill the other with the darkest shade that you can make. So here you have the range of this particular pencil. And there will be at least 4 or 6 different shades between these two. You can create similar such circles, and instead of, I don't know if you have a pressure control on your hand, but otherwise it becomes very difficult to check which would be a darker and darker layer. So the way I go about it is by layering. So here I'm going to now practice making a circular shading without drawing the circle. This is with the lightest hand. Here I'm making a second one with the same pressure. Now when you're doing this, as in the beginning, you might find that you make a slightly darkish patch just to get the pencil going, and then little, maybe a millimeter away when the pencil is started, it becomes the actual light color. That's okay. Now I have made this holding the pencil and making lines at about 45 degrees. I'm going to change the direction and make it slightly vertical and do the same action again and layer this. So I get a second layer in the crevices of the paper that the first layer of the graphite did not go. So this is layer 2. And I'm going to repeat this a third time, where this is layer 1, this is layer 2, and then change the direction again and fill in layer 3. And like we did the glazing exercise, this is pretty much the same. You will notice that as you are layering, you can create depth like we created depth in watercolor as well. Now, the important part to notice is that we also change the direction. So if you can imagine our paper, which is usually textured, has got a texture in which there are these amorphous valleys in the, even if it's a smooth hot press paper, it does not take in all the lead at one point, all the graphite at one point. So say you've got different parts on the paper which are raised up and some are lower. So when the pencil goes in one direction, it goes over some parts of that paper. When you change the direction, it goes over the parts that it has missed the first time round. And then when you change it again, it goes over the parts that it's missed the third time round. So if you try making the same shading at the same angle, there chances are that you will be darkening exactly those same areas that you did the first time round. And you might still have a few white spots, indiscernible, but they will be there. You might not get a very smooth finish, and you might be tempted to use your finger or a stump to then smooth the pencil out. I am going to come to the stump as well. I don't use it much, but it's good to have around when there can be days where you want to cheat and have fun. The stump is good fun. So if you can manipulate your pencil in such a way, you can get an extremely smooth shading without having to do anything more than change the direction of the pencil movement. So I'm going to do this one. Let's make these two circular shapes. Remember the water drop and the cherry that we had done in the last class? Okay, so if you have it handy, just have a look at it and see if you can replicate that in pencil. Now, all you need to do is translate these two into gray shades. And you will be able to do it pretty much exactly like how we had done these. So the first layer, you can start with dark at the top, and as you come down, make it lighter. Leave this highlight and then change the direction, and then in a few places on top, you can make it dark. I'll do it with you so you get to see it as well. This is my highlight on the right. Last time somebody had made the highlight very close to the edge. So please bring it a little inside, but also not very close to the center. I'm going to do it with just light pressure throughout the first time. I'm not making it dark like we did in watercolor. As always, if the final effect is what you want, then it doesn't matter how you got there. Still, there is some difference in the pressure. The top is darker than the bottom. Now I'm going to change the direction for this second layer and make it slightly darker in a fat crescent shape towards the top. My aim over here is to just move the pencil on top of the paper. I'm putting no pressure at all, and then my hands are merely guiding the pencil while the fingers are moving back and forth. Those of you who've seen how a gramophone works, while the LP is going round and round, that stylus just comes and gently sits on top of the gramophone record. That's the kind of lightness that we want in the pencil. If you're holding it very close, there's a chance that you might put excessive pressure. So try and hold it in the back. And for those of you who are holding it from the top, this area is too small to hold it from the top and shade it, because when you're holding it like that, you have to keep your wrist fairly steady. So in this small area, if you want to make something like this, which is rounded, your whole hand will have to move, and it can be a little taxing on the arm. So a small area, you can just hold it like that, just maintain the pressure. And to do that, hold it a little far away, just 2 inches away from the tip should do the trick. So I've changed the direction. Twice I have rolled the pencil over there using the same pressure. Now I'm changing the direction one more time. And this time round, I am shading just the top part. I'm sure you can see if you look a little closer how there are some white spots where the pencil has not gone in. Those are the little spots which if I start adding pressure now, I will just force the lead into. So these are my 3 layers, and now I can add some pressure. Wait, before I do that, in order to make this even, what I do is play with the pressure. In some places I'll make it dark, some places I make it light, and I will shade small areas at a time. I will proceed to cover this space with really tiny, I say small deposits at a time instead of doing this large area shading. And I found that I can get a lot of control with this. And it also becomes very even. So my temptation to use a stub or even a blend, any kind of blending is just not needed. So this kind of shading is actually my secret. I haven't seen people do such detailed shading for anything at any time, but I found that I can always invent my own way. So can anyone, in fact. And this has worked very well for me. I don't know if you can notice it, but the amount of pressure I'm using is very little. And it seems as if I'm just wasting time and nothing's happening, but when you take your hand away, you notice that a lot has happened. And then the same thing, I'm using good pressure to make a dark border. And then a line to create a crescent shape for the shadow. And this time I'm going to make an even toned shadow throughout. It's still dark at the top. Now for the cherry, it's pretty much the same thing, except that the dark part is at the bottom. So here again, we'll do the same thing. But this time round, I'm going to use this stump to blend it. So this is it's made out of rolled paper, which is then sharpened into a very nice tip, which you can use to blend in all the graphite. It's almost as if you're massaging all that graphite into all the crevices on the paper surface that the graphite did not go when you laid it down by pencil. Let's see which one looks more pleasing. I'm going to try and make the cherry in one sweep. So I'm starting out with a lighter shade, and then I'm gradually going to increase pressure.
For the shading, it always has to be in straight lines, or can we also go like a little circular?
Depends on what final effect you want. If you want to, I mean, if it's going to be something like this, you can do it circular, but unless you have good control over the pencil, you might already start overlapping. So what I normally do is the first part where I just need a small layer, I'll just do it in straight line. And then now that I'm over here, I can go back and forth because it doesn't matter if
Yeah. Okay, yeah, that's what I was asking for the
Yeah.
smaller portions.
Yeah. So at least I have some control. If you have control, even by making circular movement, it's perfectly okay. Okay, now I don't use this much, so if I bungle up, please forgive me. But just look at using a stump. Like I'm sure you've done this with your fingers. I've done this in school with my fingers, and of course, I've also had friends who would put spit on their fingers and try and blend even more. Or I don't know why they felt that making their finger wet would make the blend even more. I don't know. It was just some kind of weird reaction. Oh, I think it comes from the fact that they used to use that to, when they made a spelling mistake, they thought that rubbing it with a wet finger would obliterate that instead of cutting it, because we used to get negative marking in school for um, spelling mistakes, but it didn't work. Okay, so here's the effect. It's quite lovely actually. One is without blending and the other one is blending with a stump. And after this, I can keep layering it. So if I want it slightly darker in some areas, I can keep layering and keep blending and keep layering and keep blending. So when you are making things like human faces, where you want, imagine that black and white Madhubala photograph, which I think everyone has either seen or has a poster of or had when they were younger. And the light that falls on her cheeks is just so beautiful. Her porcelain skin, though she never had porcelain skin, the photograph, her skin just looks so lovely, can be achieved with a stump. And then if you don't use a stump, then her skin was actually this texture. She had the worst skin ever, apparently. But they used to use a very nice filter so that she always looked very pretty, and her skin always looked very beautiful. Now, if you don't have a stump, you can try using your finger also. You can try using a piece of tissue, a soft tissue, which you can roll up. Maybe tissues from last week you might have. So I've tried all these things as my first go-to. You can just roll it up and make a controllable surface and then gently go over that area and you will achieve the same result. Just make sure that this tissue is soft and not too hard, because if it's a coarse tissue, it might not do the job as well as a soft tissue does. We just need to soften the area.
Can I
And
show you? Can I show you?
nice. The area around the highlight has become very dark, so that is going to look like that is that's the stem. That's the place where the stem is attached.
Okay.
So we just need to not. It's like the highlight is just a spot of light that's fallen. It won't have a dark area around it. Other than that, I think it's looking good. Yes.
Okay.
And then the bottom, I'm just making an oval shape like we did last time, and just one uniform shade should be enough. Just give me a second. I'm looking for a picture. No, I can't find it. Okay, so there's, for pencil sketching, there's a thing called, pencil sketching is often used in an art technique that's called chiaroscuro.
Hey, how does this look, yeah, Aditi?
It's
Pretty,
nice, it's good. Even
somehow
your,
it doesn't look as,
no, so I would like you to just evaluate it. You'll be able to evaluate what is going wrong. So some places the contrast is too high, or
Correct.
there is a stark distinction between dark and light, or the fact that even in your case, there is a darker area on the right side of the highlight on the cherry. What does that look like? So just objectively look at what you have created. I think the shading is good. You've got the shading practice in, but where does it deviate from your expectation?
lot of practice.
10,000 hours. Okay, so chiaroscuro. This is, okay, one minute, Devashri, let me have a look. Yes, I think it works. Very nice. Very nice. Your highlight can be still a little towards the corner. So a little higher, but not touching the edge. Manisha is also same as Devasena's. There's a distinct line between the light and dark that you can just do a little bit of shading over there and make it subtler. Yes, Shivani's is good. Ritu's again too stark. Too stark. The first.
Too dark, is it?
Sorry.
Is it too dark?
No, the top is okay, but when it comes down to the bottom, the junction
Yeah.
between them is very stark.
Okay,
So
okay,
just fuzz it up a little bit, and then that should work.
okay, fine. And the other one is okay?
The other one looks okay, yeah.
Okay, fine. Thanks.
Kavita's is also nice. Kavita, your highlight on one, it's come a little closer to the center, and also it's got a dark outline. You can avoid that. And one has gone a little too far away. You can bring that inside. Varsha's is also looking good. Just let me have a closer look, Varsha. 1 minute, just hold it up. Yep. The shadow underneath those cherries, you can make them slightly flatter, because this would make it look like you are looking at them from a higher angle when we're actually looking at them from a lower angle. That's about it. The light source, not that you're looking also, or both. Okay, so chiaroscuro is just a study of light and shadow. And if you do a search online or on Pinterest, you'll find that it's all about how you can create a certain lighting effect. If any of you is familiar with the painting style of Rembrandt, he did a lot of chiaroscuro, which is just playing with light and art. A lot of the other Dutch painters also around the 1600s were exploring how to use light in order to create focus in painting. So that's like a separate thesis topic altogether. But just so that you know that pursuit is called chiaroscuro, the study of chiaroscuro. Why I wanted to bring this up is, firstly, you can find a lot of things to sketch in pencil when you look for this subject. You will find geometric objects which you can draw and shade. You can find fruit and vegetables. You can find still life compositions, all lit in such a way that you can practice light and dark, light and shadow, and get your pencil shading part done. So the things that are noticed in a black and white study, sometimes you don't see in color. One of them being how a sphere can be studied. So this is a very typical study in the chiaroscuro sphere. Let me just search for this image. So while we have made the cherry light, highlight, light, medium, and dark. This is instinctively the way we have made it. I will show you one where the a sphere actually has many more tones than these three. And I'll share this image with you as well. Yeah. Yes, Kavita is showing a picture of a light and dark study in light and shadow. Very lovely. Okay, just take a minute to study this. I'm going to share this picture with you. And this is how you can, a number of things that you can note over here. Firstly, you can see how the lines have been, how the shading has been done in different lines. These are the different shades that you actually have when you're sketching a sphere. You have a highlight, you have a point where the light falls, then you have half tones, then you have different types of shadows. You have a core shadow, you have a cast shadow, you have an occlusion shadow. And here in this part where we instinctively think is the darkest part, you have reflected light, which actually comes from the surface on which you keep the sphere. Only when this is seen in black and white does this, might as well just save this. Will you notice that such things exist? Yeah. See this? It's in this sphere, you notice how the different shadows and different kinds of light appear. Now, why this is important is because when you are sketching a face, for example, a face is also in some places spherical towards the bottom. It has a roundness to it. If you go and shade really dark at the bottom, it makes the face look like it's got a beard. Whether you like it or not, even if you're making a child's face, a shadow in that area just makes it look like you've drawn a beard. But when you have studied the sphere, you have a highlight, you have a core shadow, you have a reflected shadow. All that helps you in knowing what you should do where and how much of it. So let's just do this one chiaroscuro sphere where, again, like we did for the cherry, I'm just going to do a quick shadow shading in one direction across the entire sphere. My highlight has become terrible, but it's okay. I'm just going to obliterate it. So this is the and then shadow only in the equatorial. So if you can visualize
You're freezing, Aditi.
I'm freezing?
Yeah.
Freezing? Oh, okay. Let me check what's happening. Is it okay now?
Yeah, it's okay. Just now it's okay.
Okay, let me know if it freezes again. I'll go over
Yeah.
what I said again. Okay, so a second layer, I have changed the direction and shaded only a thick well an equatorial to the highlight. And then within that, again, I'm going to change the direction and make a slightly darker section towards the bottom. I'll that image with you so that you can make this on your own later if you want to, but I just wanted to do this quickly to show you this. And then where you, this is the cast shadow. And then underneath you have one more shadow, which is much darker. And then you still have space for that reflected light. Now on this, I can use my blending stuff and then it will look like a very nice here.
And the cotton bud be used for blending?
You can use it. Sometimes the cotton bud lets go of some fibers, so those might be a bit of a bother. But you might try to cover up the cotton bud with tissue, because tissue does not let go of fibers as much. But try with cotton bud also. I don't know, should work. I don't use any blending tools at all, so I'll try it with the cotton bud myself. Everyone okay with this so far? Okay, now let's move to the more fun bit. Achieving textures with pencil.
Looking at it is always okay. Problem comes when you sit down and do it.
No, I'm sure you're doing this. Now this part you'll enjoy because textures is good fun.
I realize there's so much to practice. I mean, in watercolors also and sketching also. So I get
Yeah.
confused. I mean,
No,
kya kare?
we'll be doing much of this we will be doing as we do our weekly classes. So you will be getting a lot of these fundamentals done through our
Coming
weekly
at 10.
classes. The whole point then is then you spend the rest of the week employing that particular technique in other things. So we might do some fruit someday, and then if we've done an apple, you can make grapes, but the process remains the same. And lately, I'd also started using pencil a lot before as just to sketch out, because I wanted everyone to start sketching an initial draft of the image, just so that your eye goes over all the details, you start noticing things which you otherwise wouldn't before you make the final image. So it'll get done, Garimari. It is a lot, and you wish sometimes you could just take a holiday and go somewhere and just do
Same
practice
here.
all your exercises.
I'm like, I need a holiday, I need a break.
So true. Yes, we should do that. We should do that Mykonos holiday.
Yes.
You did mention, no, Anti, that we'll do an artist tour. Where we'll go to
Yes.
Spain and France and stuff like that.
Oh, wow.
I had planned on last year Florence. I was planning in Jan.
Michelangelo, Uffizi Gallery.
Yeah, so by March, all my hopes and dreams crashed. So then I said, okay, forget it now. But yes, we can make the plan, and then all that remains is buying the tickets and going.
And going.
How lovely
Okay.
it sounds. Huh? There's always a dream that we can make it work.
Of course, we can always dream. Okay, so simple textures. I'm just going to show you a few basics. One of the things that stumps a lot of people is foliage, how to draw leaves on trees. And very often I've seen many people are trying to draw actual leaf itself, something, and make the the illustration look far too clunky. So what you need to do when you are illustrating, say, a branch of a tree with some leaves is just close your eyes and see the shape that it takes.
Aditi, you're stuck. And it's
Yes.
very hazy, the paper and everything. For me.
Yeah, I'm
Yeah.
just waiting. It's free because it's overcast. So I don't know because whether it's because of the rains or something, because I have taken care of everything else. Let me know. Is it moving?
Yes.
Okay. So I'm just going to draw a branch like that, an inverted Y. Whenever you're drawing branches again, don't make them too far apart. It looks very unusual. And don't draw. Wait. Yeah. So don't draw the next branch right to it's at the same junction. Leave some space and then make the third branch if you need to. We will this whole exercise in how to draw trees, but even today, this is something that you should just put it in practice. Now, if you want to draw a lot of leaves, what you ought not to do is yeah, what you should not be drawing is this. We don't want cat is what those clumps of leaves make. And then you just those. So you land up making foliage. This also some lazy work like that. This will not look like foliage also. So neither detailed leaves, the lazy shapes like that. Make them in the shape that you see them. Like mango you'll see large leaves coming downward. And then you can shade in these in a very, very messy fashion. Keep changing the direction because that will make it look busy. That's what you want to do. To make the tree like it's full of leaves. Messy on something like trees, automatically your texture, veins, whether
You're stuck.
Your audio is getting.
Audio is also, and now the picture is also stuck, Aditi.
yes, just a minute. I'll stop at my pictures frozen.
I couldn't hear what you said about the leaves.
Yeah. So I just made a shape of the collection of leaves as one sees it. So even if you have trees outside right now, just have a look at how the trees look, and you will see a shape made by that whole clump of leaves. So make the shape and then go and shade inside that in a very messy shading technique, because then that will make that particular texture look very busy. When you want to show a full tree with leaves, that's what you can do. You can also make a few places which are dark, like silhouetting a few of the leaves to create that effect. Now, more often than not, this is going to be a part of a larger scene. So there isn't so much focus on something like a branch of a tree, but it has to occupy some space and some darkness in your composition. That is the point. So if you do far too much detailing in it, it will start looking like a Madhubani painting, which you don't want to do. So just fill the space up, and in terms of your composition, look at how much darkness you want to give in that area. Now let's try this one more time, where say if you want to use a tree which has smaller leaves. In that case, again, you can create a wobbly line like that, carefully observing how the outline of the leaves or that branch are. And again, you can fill this up in a very, very organic, disheveled texture. Now, to make this look convincing, you can also have a few leaves or a few pockets of leaves coming downward. We'll do this kind of detailed study of trees when we do landscape and pencil sketching. But between the two, you'll notice how the manner in which you create the outline shape determines what tree you're trying to draw, right? So all you need to do is identify the silhouette, and then a few shapes just for shadows. So a few shapes is all you need to highlight. Shapes of leaves or clumps of leaves. Highlight. Now, when you want to draw a whole tree, it would be ridiculous trying to draw a whole tree like that. So, what you can do, the technique is still the same. You can create an overall shape that the tree makes. In order to make the shape also, hold the pencil really far away. Don't give it any control, and automatically you'll see that the line just goes wherever it is going. And you have to kind of pull it back like one of those errant dogs on that a dog walker takes around. It just goes away somewhere, and then you have to pull it back and say, just come back a little on this side, come back a little on this side. It has to just, the line has to just go that way. And now here you can, if it's just a casual illustration, you can do the kind of shading that we did for the 3D object. One direction for one layer, change the direction and make a second layer on just one half of the tree. Towards the bottom, it's a little darker. And then a third layer, changing the direction again, where the entire bottom of the tree is darker. So you get dimension, you get a roundness, you get it to look like a tree. Now, if it was something like an Ashoka tree, you follow the same principle. You make the tree, the silhouette of the tree the way it is. And then the same kind of shadow. And with Ashoka trees, you'll notice that there are layers. So you can just layer this. Just make sure that your Ashoka tree doesn't look like a Christmas tree. Huh? All this is an observation that you can gain from just half closing your eyes and just seeing an overall silhouette and also with shadows that are naturally created within that texture.
Ma'am, you're going to share these notes now?
Yes, I am.
Yeah.
Now for the bark, for the trunk of the tree, you can try this. Just move your pencil, just the tip of the pencil in vertical strokes, where you definitely do not want a fine, refined texture. And do that maybe in 2 layers. One would be dark, one would be light, and you automatically get a bark-like texture. I'm going to show you a wood texture, moving on from here as well. Now, if you want to make the texture of wood, for example, again, look for a picture of a plank of wood, and what are the things you will see are the
The
shape,
veins.
width. So I'm going to draw a plank, and for the plank, I'm going to draw first 2 parallel lines, but they're not the same size. And because this is a weathered plank, I'm going to draw a line that goes a little inside, a little outside. Very organically. Now in this, I am making a few lines go from left to right. I'm not shading, I'm not creating a light and dark shadow, and I'm deliberately leaving these lines in between. This is one kind of darkness, and then I can go over with a broken line, slightly darker. They're not all parallel lines. They can join, they can break halfway, and that's about it. You don't need to do more than this. Now, all the other items that you see, everything in the world, can be drawn exactly like that. Just look at the silhouette, study the shadows, and rub your pencil on the paper in those shapes and shapes. That's about it. Pay attention also to the direction. So I'm just going to do this one last one over here, which is a lemon. In order to make the lemon, I'm going to make an oval shape in such a way that only 2 of the long sides are drawn. And then I'm going to draw this little pimply part of the lemon and finish it on the other side. And now in this case, because I want that slightly rough texture of the lemon, I'm going to make my texture like this. We have done some of these textures before, but not all in pencil. There's a whole lot of textures you can create in pencil also, which I'll encourage you to study. So I'm just going round and round and round very lightly. Some places where the lines are overlapping, I'm automatically getting a darker texture, and some places light. And I'm going to make some dots over here because there are some depressions on a lemon peel.
Aditi, can you just hold it close to the screen, to the camera, please?
Yes, yes. Just 1 second. I just need the part. And then the stalk. Can you see the lines now? They're all very wobbly, wobbly kind of lines.
Yeah, thanks.
So in this case, you may not, it's a better idea not to use anything to smoothen this texture. And as far as shading, pencil shading is concerned, if you make just vertical lines over here, this texture will look very boring. Your picture might look very flat. So use your discretion. In a lot of these places, it all comes down to discretion. I'm just going to show you some pictures here. I'm going to share these images, and I think by now you can tell what technique I might have used for the different textures that we've not done. Grasses. Now here's a different kind of line where the line starts at a defined point, but then becomes wispy towards the end. You'll be able to make this. In the case of the leaves, you can tell that I have made at least 2 or 3 layers where the first layer is light and then along the edges, the layers are dark. So you can make leaves in that manner. With bricks, again, I'm sure you can tell that I made one uniform shade throughout the brick and then made it darker in a few patches, and like the lemon, also added some stippling. So I'll share this with you and some more images of objects which you can practice shading. Simple items that you can shade. And one thing that I wanted to also speak about is pencil sharpness. Normally when you start drawing, you should sharpen your pencil. It should have a good point so that you can control details of your drawing. As it grows, however, the drawing grows, your pencil starts becoming blunter, but you need to check whether or not you need to continue drawing sharp lines, or sometimes the blunt line actually helps shading better.
Shading.
Now, there are artists who will sharpen their pencil really long. So they will actually carve the pencil out and keep an inch or inch and a half, 2 inches of the lead exposed. I think that is, I have a friend who does shading with, his first class is only about how to shave your pencils. It does
Exactly.
sketching work. So I never felt the need for doing it, but I guess it's just because I have gone in one particular direction, it's probably gone the long way around and reached a destination where I'm happy where I've reached. But if you do come across either tutorials or on this, on how to use a really fine pencil like that, do watch it and see if that's a technique that you want to try out just to experiment with. I'm sure, because I mean, professional artists, if they're using it, there could be some value in that as well. So this is just a range of how you can experiment with sharpening your pencils. For shading, you don't need a very sharp pencil. Slightly blunt pencil will also do. We've already covered paper stubs, and I guess that's all that we. So this is, I think, sufficient for our level. But as we go along, I'll probably be talking about some kind of pencil shading or the other. If you feel there's anything interesting, please feel free to add to these notes of your own, so that you can bulk up your own pencil fundamentals, and then you can share it amongst each other. That's also good fun.
Aditi, how is this?
Okay, let's have a look. Okay, looking good, looking nice.
I saw this grass on the other paper just now.
Yeah.
So did this.
Yes. I'll share it also.
Can you see my lemon? Is it okay?
The lemon looks okay. Yes, from what I see, but it's a very fuzzy picture. So if you can just share it on the group, then I can see it in detail.
Okay.
Aditi, in that foliage, can you show me the second one more time? I didn't get how you drew that, how you made that shade.
This?
Yes.
Okay. Yeah. I made the shape of the leaves like this, just back and forth, zigzag round. I'll show you this shape.
Yeah.
First. I won't shade this.
Oh,
Just so
okay, okay,
what that shape is like.
okay.
It's not like this. It's not just zigzag.
Got it, got it.
So it needs to go. You might need a little bit of time to get this kind of unpredictable shape.
Okay. Yeah.
It's so funny. We are trying to predict the line, but for this particular exercise, it's an unpredictable line.
Okay, that's fine. Thanks.
And then you just shade it with, again, without one directional lines all over the place. It works.
Didi, if you've done any art which has all this kind of techniques, then can you share it also in the group?
Yes, I have. I've made. There was a leopard that I had made. I'll share it. I think that's on. Let me see. I might just quickly find it. And I've made a snake also, which was part of the snake was out of focus, and that was I had tried that. That was really good. I think I should have the leopard. Just give me a minute. No, I can't find it right away. I thought it was here, but it's not. But let me show you this one. Yes. I really enjoyed this picture.
Are you screen sharing or what? We can't see.
No, I'm screen sharing. Yeah. This is an exercise in pencil shading that I did in 2017 with my students. This is a William Morris design, which we drew and then we shaded just so that you get your pencil shading done. So you can see how the line quality here.
Very nice, very nice.
Very pretty.
Very pretty and very neat.
Yeah.
It turned out so good. I loved it. All the same techniques over
Aditi,
here.
can you share it on WhatsApp?
Yes, I'll share it on WhatsApp.
Sure, thanks.
I did a lot of pencil sketching in the beginning. I was somehow obsessed with shading. I don't know, just being able to draw really well with pencil. Somewhere as a 15-year-old, it struck me that if I can master pencil shading, I can do everything else. Oh, there's one more thing I found, a very curious thing. There's something called liquid pencil. I don't know if you guys have seen this. This is, you can use it like paint. I found it in London. So I've not used it much, but you can potentially just use it with water and create very fine details. But the effect, it's not paint, it is like liquid lead. And you can shade over this with more pencil and then you can liquefy it and whatnot. It's quite fun.
Wow.
So this is like pencil shading in watercolor.
Maybe it's just dilute ink.
No, it's not ink, it's actual lead.
It is lead.
It's like lead.
Okay.
Graphite, yeah.
Yeah.
Wow, sounds interesting.
Yeah, it's super fun. I've never used it much. Authentic graphite finish from a liquid rather than a pencil. So I suppose if I want to create effects like that. I've never
Wow.
play with this though.
Beautiful.
That's faster.
It is, yeah. So when you have to cover large areas, you can just use this. Also, these pencils, these Faber-Castell pencils that I showed you earlier,
Yeah.
those are also aquarelle. So theoretically, I can draw and use a liquid medium with this as well.
We have something here called watercolor pencils, which is pencil and then you can use water on it.
Correct.
It's similar.
Yeah, I have those. I have those.
Those are, I thought that that was available
I have
only,
that.
but this is graphite aquarelle. Let's see.
Yeah, this is something I've not come across. I've seen water soluble pencils and water soluble
Yeah,
crayons.
exactly.
But this graphite thing is totally new.
Yeah, the
Nowadays-
graphite thing is new.
Nowadays, we don't come across new things. So
Yeah, this is very nice. But
lovely.
Hi, Trishla.
I hope it's available on Amazon.
yes, and Amazon also, please try every day. Yesterday I tried to order something on Amazon, they wouldn't deliver. Today I'm ordering same thing and they're delivering. So I think day by day they take a call. Check it out every day. Okay, the other thing was now this envelope exchange. Is it clear now with everyone?
Yes.
What is the envelopes? Okay.
Yes.
Right. So I think maybe now the next class we are going to do with pen. So we can use, I'm going to use a ball pen actually. So I want everyone to find a ball pen because we have the fancy pens, but let's try drawing it with the cheapest, easiest, easily available pen for pen and ink. No ink, but just pen illustration next week. And the week after that, we can do envelopes. So that those of you who don't know anything about the envelope exchange will at least know what everybody is up to, and then maybe they can start a second list. All right. So I guess I'll see you next week. Bye, everyone.
Bye. Bye.
Bye.
So much.
Bye.
Thanks,
Bye.
everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.